Welcome to Bookmas. This is the Protagonist Pub where characters gather, and my name is Tammy. So today we're going to talk about some of my favorite new to me authors for 2023. Some of them will have already appeared in other Bookmas videos, and I apologize for the repeat content. But as you can imagine, if it's a favorite, you end up talking about it a lot at the end of the year with content like this. So I am sorry for the repetitive content. But at the same time, no, I'm not, because truly the books are great and everybody should be reading them. So, let's talk about the physical books first, and then we'll move on to Kindle. The first author would be Anne McCaffrey. I've not read this book. I have started the Dragon Riders of Pern series. It is fantasy science fiction. It's that mashup of genres. And I really enjoyed it. It was intriguing, and it was entertaining, and it was unlike anything I had read. And so I really enjoyed it. This is a short story collection. It tells the back history of the planet, and it fleshes out the lore of the first book, which is on a series of books which are on my shelf. So this is on my list for 2024. And then is a recent discovery, that would be Lucinda Riley and the Seven Sisters series. She has some standalone novels as well, which I will begin to accumulate. I truly enjoyed this book. I am so looking forward to the remaining 6 and the prequel novel, which she did not write, but is related to the series. And if you like dual timeline, this is a great dual timeline. Another good dual timeline author, and I've unhauled her book, is Jaime Jo Wright. I read The Vanishing at Castle Moreau in the summer, and it was fabulous. It was the second Jaime Jo attempt for me this year. The first one I DNF'd. So, but if you like a good dual timeline, I can recommend The Vanishing at Castle Moreau. Catholic historical fiction in pieces, Rhonda Ortiz. This is the Molly Chase series. This is the first book in the series. Y'all know I love this series. This is no surprise to any regular viewer of this channel. And so I'll leave it there. Next up would be, no surprise, Recorder by Cathy McCrumb. This is the first book in the Children of the Consortium series. The third and final book is The Guardian. It releases in February of next year. I'm on the launch team. I've read it. I will link that video where I briefly talk about it down below. Again, I truly, 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 truly love this series. Both those two series I love, you know. It's no surprise whatsoever that I love those series. So, now let's talk about some amazing discoveries from Kindle this year. Let's do rom-com writers first. No surprise. Sharon Peterson. Closed door. Some swearing. Entertaining. Female protagonists you can relate to and are funny and are strong and aren't wishy-washy. Then there's Emma St. Clair. And I truly enjoy the Love and Sheet Cake Texas series. And all of her series are loosely interrelated, and I love that she's building a world of characters in a familiar setting, and I find them funny and hysterical, and they are, again, closed-door romances. And the Thanksgiving scene in The Bluff is hysterical. Laugh out loud, hysterical. Next up would be Jenny Proctor. I read the entire Hawthorne Brothers series this year. They are, again, closed door, no swearing. And they made me laugh. They made me laugh. They are sweet, relatable people you would sit down in real life and have a conversation with and be comfortable. The next rom-com that just amused me to no pieces, even though it's really loosely categorized as rom-com, would be A Game of Hearts by Joanna Barker. It's Regency. It's a sports romance. And sports romance in Regency, England is such a unique setting. I loved this book. It just had a little bit of everything in it. It was so well done, and I'm hoping she puts more, writes another book with side characters from A Game of Hearts in their own book, because it was that enjoyable for me. So next up would be Brian McClellan, and I have read the first book in the Powder Mage trilogy. That would be A Promise of Blood. This is Flintlock Fantasy, which has blown me away. I need to buy the next 2 books in the series. They were not part of any Black Friday deals that I could find, unfortunately, so I will pick them up next year. And I truly enjoyed that Flintlock book immensely. I really, really, really did. I should have mentioned Denise Hunter. Denise Hunter, I read a novel proposal this year for the Spring into Christian Fiction readathon that Katie hosts every year. I will link Katie down below. I really enjoyed it. It can loosely fit in the rom-com category. It's Christian contemporary romance. It's light on the faith. It was fun. I would pick up another Denise Hunter book and not think twice about it. I really would. I have read so many new people this year, it's hard to remember all of them off the top of my head. And like always, I'm doing this extemporaneously. I didn't write anything down because why would I do that? Another new favorite would be Irene Hunter. And the first book of the series that turned me onto her was Labyrinth of Lies. These are Christian romantic suspense. Again, light on the faith, light on the romance, heavy on the suspense, which is just the way I like them. The next author is Melanie Lageschulte, and she writes the Mailbox Mystery Series, and the first book I will put right here is The Route That Takes You Home. She has another series. These are set in Iowa. They are fantastic. I truly just fell in love with this series. It is so unique. A mailman as the protagonist. And they were set in Iowa, which no one ever sets books in Iowa. I don't know why. I highly recommend the series. It was clean. There was no romance involved. It was fabulous. She moves back to her hometown. I have the second one on my Kindle waiting for me. I just need to sit down and read it. 2 more great finds for me this year are, one is Abigail Wilson. Checked it out from my library. Here's a picture of the one I checked out, which was The Masquerade at Middle Crest Abbey, I believe. Trust the picture, don't trust the words coming out of my mouth. I loved it. It was gentle faith. It was romance and mystery and marriage of convenience all tied up into one. It was just a blast. I will pick up more. Her books are not labeled as a series, but they are all related. My library doesn't have any of them, so I'm on the lookout. So the next find is she's secular, but there is some faith that runs through the books, but it wouldn't even rise to the level of gentle everyday faith. So that would be Sarah E. Ladd. This is the first book in the Whispers on the Moors series. It is the Eras of Winterwood. I have the entire trilogy. I'm reading it next year. I am very much looking forward to it. And the cover's just beautiful. I mean, who doesn't love a beautiful cover? I read Letter from Briarton Park by Sarah Ladd. I'll link that video down below. This year, it was a great historical romantic mystery, and the romance was secondary, but it wasn't an afterthought at the same time. It was truly what I was in the mood for when I read that book. And I think the next favorite of the year is going to be... So, the next three are all Christian fiction authors. They are all historical fiction. So, don't discount them because they have the Christian fiction label attached to them. First author would be Julie Klassen, and this year I read Castaway of Cornwall. Picture is right here. I've already unhauled it, and I have since ordered... I think I ordered 3 over Black Friday. I have 4 unread from her. So I pulled The Shadows at Swanford Abbey. I cannot wait to read this. It is another Christian history romance, and you know me. I'm always good for a good romance and history or mystery book. So the next 2 are biblical fiction authors. The first is Mesu Andrews. I read 2 books by her. They're in a series this year. I read Potiphar's Wife and In Feast or Famine. This is they are a duology. They tell the story of Joseph. And they were my introduction to biblical fiction, and they were fabulous. I far enjoyed Potiphar's Wife over In Feast and Famine. It's personal preference. And so I greatly enjoyed Potiphar's Wife. I think it tells a much better conversion story. But it's one of those personal preference things. And if you are timid about a subgenre entitled biblical fiction, all I can say is don't be. It's historical fiction set in biblical times, and yes, this does talk about Joseph is the central character, but he, for a lack of a better way to describe these 2 books, Joseph is the main protagonist, but he's a side character. It's his wives and the people surrounding him that are much more prevalent in the story, and nothing in Mesu's book contradicts the Bible. And I found them just incredibly illuminating. I don't know a better word for it. Illuminating. And the second biblical fiction author I want to recommend is Connie Lynn Cassette. I read the arc for Voice of the Ancient. I will link it down below. The first quarter to a third of this book, I was so confused, but in a good way. It was confused where your brain says, your knowledge is lacking, and why is that? And please go fix it. I enjoy the book. It is new adult, young adult, biblical fiction. It read a little young, but I still enjoyed the story, and I enjoy the fact that it made me go search out ancient Israel history. I picked up Ancient Israel. This is on my nonfictions to read in 2024. I'm going to read this alongside the Year in the Bible that I'm doing. I will link those videos down below if they are published when I do the description, that is. And any book that, especially any fiction book that makes you think and go search out more knowledge is high on my list of recommendations. And Connie Lynn's book did that for me this year. And I wasn't expecting that. And I think that catapults her into a favorite because she forced my brain to think. So that is a brief sampling of the new to me authors I fell in love with this year. As of the end of the year, I'm sure I will be well over 60 new to me authors this year, and that is a lot. I've undoubtedly forgotten some, or I couldn't find them on my Kindle, so if I've forgotten you, please don't take us late. And that trend will be continuing into next year. I enjoyed finding new people to read this year. I really, really did. It surprised me. I hope you're having a very Merry Christmas. I hope you find many books under your tree. I hope you gift many books. Please leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.